Garrett Frey, welcome to Titans of Transition, man.
I love it, Joe. If I call you Mr. Miller, you just can't get mad at me. I've already tried to clear this with Keith.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into. I was actually going to do an introduction, talk about the three amigos. So Garrett is a close friend of my son Keith, my oldest child, and we were in Danville, California, when they were going to high school together. And actually, it was the three amigos. It was Garrett, it was Chad Wold, and it was Keith Miller. And you guys were wild and crazy. You loved automobiles. You loved fixing up crazy machines. Keith had the bomber of the crew. You had the off-road machine. And I think Chad might just have had sort of the normal sort of muscle car.
Chad had the 67 Mustang. He had that candy apple red Mustang with the white race. Oh gosh, he had a good one. But we had some fun. I'm surprised that you are still alive and kicking with all the stress that we might have put you through.
Yeah, and didn't you refer to your vehicle as the Beast or something? What did you call it?
Keith named it. Yes, that's how it came to the Beast.
And Keith and his Chevelle, and that thing was like, he thought it was the best thing ever, but it was a money pit, and he had high-speed gears in it, so it was like redlining at 50 miles an hour or something like that.
Well, you may not know this story, but we got pulled over one night on Diablo Road, and the police officer pulled us over because he had no taillights in it. The taillights had actually fallen out, which is the beauty of this thing. So money pit, to say the least. And I'll never forget, we were sitting on the side of the road for so long with the lights on that the battery died. And so we got out to push it with the police officer behind us, and he spun the tires for like 30 feet. And the police officer, we looked back at him, he's like, "Boys, you need to go home."
I believe it. I'll only tell one other story, and then we'll get into the interview portion of this rather than just reminiscing. And that was one time we had a van too. We had just the typical minivan, the Dodge minivan, right? So I don't know where Barb and I were. We went away somewhere, and you guys were out with the van one night, and Keith and I went out the next day and was driving at night, and the lights were like moving around. I would go around the corner, and they, so obviously the mounting situation was destroyed. And Keith finally told me after some coercion that you guys had thought it'd be a lot of fun to go on trash day to see if you could launch trash bins up in the air and how high you could launch them. I don't know if that's the complete story, but that's what I remember.
I was not the driver that evening, but that might have happened. I did break the entire window out of the side of that van, though. Yeah. So, yes, that was a wonderful van.
When you had to put the door back on or just the window?
Did break the door off also, yes, the sliding door. Again, I'm surprised you're okay.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason why I was okay was, and this gets into kind of the whole backstory on Titans of Transition, is I was busy chasing a career and I was working my brains out. So I wasn't noticing enough of what was going on at home, which my wife can attest to. Okay, all that aside, I've been needled a little bit by Keith and his siblings that I ought to have you on my podcast. Didn't know what you were doing, and then came across your podcast and what your business was around real estate, coaching real estate agents, I believe.
Yep.
And one little bit before I let you go and tell your story, what you're doing, and kind of your backstory for your transition was, I came across one of your real estate agents, and when I sold our home in Colorado to move down here to Florida when I retired, and just happened somehow or other, she mentioned the name of your company, and I went, I think that's my son's friend. And by the way, she was great. She was wonderful. I'll drop her name into these show notes.
I love it.
But anyway, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. You've calmed down. You have a real career. You have a great career, actually. All three of you guys have done really well, which, at that time I would never have dreamed of, but you've really made the parents proud. So take it from here, Garrett.
Well, it's funny. I'll add this little bit onto it because I mean, obviously we've all done well. We've all figured out our paths in life. And my dad used to always say when I was a kid, he said when he grew up, he was part of what they referred to as the Bad Boys Club. He says we had a group of guys that were always pushing the limits, always having fun, always. And he goes, but they were also in their industry, in their time. They were the ones that were like, they were really setting the bar and making things happen. Those guys weren't sitting around waiting for things to happen in their life.
Yeah.
And he used to always look at the group of friends also, and he goes, I've seen this before. He goes, I understand what your group is. He goes, you guys are going to be just fine in life. So very fun to be sitting here talking with you today. And yeah, so I mean, it's been a crazy journey. I got into coaching really kind of by accident is where I got into this place with real estate agents. And I've been in sales a lot of my life. I understand sales really well. Sales is one of those things that you probably know is that you can go get a job anywhere if you really had to, if you understand how to sell stuff. And so I always knew I was going to make it in some way because I could sell. But there's this moment that this opportunity came up to start a coaching program. And my dad was the one who kind of opened up this door for me. And I said, will you train me? And he said, sure, I'll train you. And the next day he sent me a client. And I said, so what do I do? And he goes, you're a smart kid. You'll figure it out. And that was literally the extent of training that I had in even coaching. But we did that that was started in about 2005 and really started to build this coaching program that went through solo for myself for about 8 years with me just bringing in people, helping them myself. And we were working alongside of another company called Ninja Selling. So Ninja Selling was the training side of the company. They were the ones doing the big courses. And then we were basically running the coaching side program. Of it. Yeah. And so, I owned the coaching side called Team Frey Incorporated, operating as Ninja Coaching. And we did that for 20 years. We had an incredible run. We ended up with 28 coaches. Actually, we were at 30 at one point in time, had to let a couple go, but we were really running around 28 coaches. We were coaching just shy of 600 people all over the United States. And things were going well, but you could tell that we were not in alignment with the other company that we were working alongside. And things just came to a head really a couple years back. And we saw the writing on the wall and we were like, you know what? This is going to be a really interesting transition that's about to come up here that we know is going to happen. We're just not sure what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And we were either going to figure out a way to work with them or we were going to have to make a really hard decision. And we got put into a place that we had to make a really tough decision. And we ended up after 20 years, literally turning the lights off. We let everybody out of their contracts. We said, you guys are free to go, take your clients, go wherever you want to go.
Oh, that was kind of you. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that, so the coaches, they didn't ask for this, when I looked at it as like, they were following me as their leader. They were very excited. I had trained them. I had, given them all my time and attention. But at the end of the day, they weren't mine to go like, you guys are with me. We're changing this direction and you're coming with me. And it's like, you're along for my ride.
Right.
I just realized
that's what I meant is in a more traditional sales situation, maybe, corporate sales, that customer list is, super valuable and to allow them,
So there's two sides to it. So a lot of the people that came to us looking for coaching came to us because of this company that they loved the model that was there. And the model's incredible. So they loved that model. They were looking for coaching. So even to take all those coaching clients and be like, hey guys, you're coming with us and we're going to do a different thing over here now. They would have been like, that's not what we signed up for. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, essentially, you have this training element, and this is very typical, by the way. I've seen it in my industry too, where, lots of times what happens is people first make a connection with someone who has answers for them based upon the what they hear. What do I need to do? And then sort of an extension of that what, you might want to refine this based on your experience, but the extension of the what is getting into the training, which dips into how, but it doesn't really ever go long enough, in my opinion, to really get people to deal with some of the underlying challenges with motivation and mindset and tough decisions that need to be made in order to really get where the journey where people really want to go to. And that's where coaching comes into play. And that really is where, transformations happen, in my opinion. The situation, you have these big coaching or training programs that people buy for corporations and other, even medium-sized companies. And they're like, well, we did the training program, but, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, senior leadership goes, it didn't really change anything.
100%.
Yeah. Agree with that? So
no, that's the reason I started the coaching program, because I was watching, and I was myself, like, I knew these systems. I had applied them into my own business. And I'm like, I'm watching all these people that are like having to circle back around and come back to the training. And they'd come back to the training going, well, I'm back again. And nothing's really changed, but I know there's good stuff here. I know I could be having a better life. I could be having a better business. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can coach people. I understand how people work. I understand the psychology. I understand how the mindset works. I understand all the roadblocks that people are up against. And so it was like, let me help. And that's where we just kept growing this thing and growing it. And it was awesome. And so to kind of wrap up that world real quick, we let everybody go. Out of the 28 coaches, 18 of them went off on their own, decided not to go the direction of the other company. And most of the coaching clients went with their coaches, which I thought was fascinating, because I was like, that they have a choice. We said, you guys go anywhere you want. You're not our clients. You go where you want to go. We don't own anybody. And it was really interesting to see how it dispersed out. And only about 10 coaches went with the direction of the old company, and then the rest of them went off on their own. And, speaking of transition, this was one of those moments that the gentleman that I had been doing our podcast with, we had done about 500 episodes, and I gave him the place where I said, you've got young kids, you've got, a life that you're building, you just bought a brand new house. I said, dude, you got to make the best choice for you. I said, I would love it if we could build something together, but you need to make your decision. And if you come back to me and say, Garrett, too risky, I can't go on this ride with you, I'm okay, but you got to let me know. And it was about a week after we shut the lights off, he called me and he said, all right, dude, I'm in. He's like, what do you want to build?
Yeah.
And he got on a plane 2 days later and flew out here, and we sat on the back porch with about 3 laptops open, just throwing ideas, talking, what if it was this? What if we did this? What if we build these things that we had our hands tied for so long that we couldn't do? And that's what led us to where we are today. That's what led us to the company, which is Life at 10 Tenths, that is our own coaching company now. We get to call all the shots, have all the fun, and it's been a wild, fun ride. We're only a little over a year in. Wow,
that's a great name. So you got to explain where you came up with it. I mean, I think 10 tenths is like 100%, or it's like
it's 100%. So one of my free time passions, and if you look back to when I was a young kid, and if anybody said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Race car driver or a comedian. Those were the two things. The race car driver or comedian was my number one choice. And so it was interesting, when I was really young, my dad gave me the speech of let's be realistic about who becomes race car drivers. Like, dude, first off, you're born in the wrong family. Second is, we don't have enough money to support you as a race car driver. Like, it was all the reasons why this was not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And later in life, he actually came to me and said, I have to apologize. I was probably 30. He said, I have to apologize. He goes, when you were a kid, he goes, I took one of your dreams away from you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I thought I was being a good dad. And he said, I need to give that dream back to you. He goes, that was my limiting beliefs that I was putting on you. And all of a sudden, it opened up my world back up again to go like, well, okay, if we can acknowledge that was his limiting belief, not my limiting belief, like, let's take a look at what this is. And around that time, I started chasing the dream of racing again. And when you go to a racetrack, especially track days, they'll let you go on the track and they'll kind of give you an update of track conditions. And they'll say, okay, guys, like, going on the track, today is a 7/10 morning. Like until the sun comes out, the ground dries up, you're at 7/10. Don't push it too hard, which is basically give your car about 70%. 10/10, when they say that means you're operating at the absolute max capacity of driver and vehicle on that track in those conditions. Mm-hmm. And when we were coming up with names, and all kinds of names we were throwing around, and I knew I wanted to kind of create it around racing or something, because my business partner, Matt Benelli, is very much about cars also. And I woke up one morning and I texted him and I said, I'm all 10/10. I'm like, I looked it up. I'm like, this is a viable name. Mm-hmm. What if it was 10/10? And he got back to me, he says, well, what if we called it Life at 10/10? He says, what if we took that element into it? And it's funny, we're now at a transition of like, it's a long name. What if we drop the life off and just keep it as 10/10? And, but it kind of brought it all together for us. And we've had a lot of people that have come to us saying, we love the old sales training. That was awesome, but it didn't encompass enough. It was only about business, even though their whole philosophy was, make a high income per hour so you can have a life. They never focused on the life part of it.
Right.
And that's where we have a lot of people coming to us now going like, oh, we still get to operate at this level, but we're also bringing in all this other pieces of what is a real life and what are we really doing this for.
That's awesome.
And but that's where 10/10 came from.
That's awesome.
It's a racing
love that
thing.
connection with your passion for racing and how you brought it in. But so that's such a great story, and it's a great way of explaining what you're trying to accomplish. The other thing I think about is that you touched on it in your coaching and in your business. People coming to the realization that, knowing what to do and knowing all these mechanics, I'll call it, it doesn't really answer the underlying question people are actually not articulating to you when they come to you. And this is kind of what I've come up with myself, and in that the people that I coach do a lot of career coaching, leadership coaching. They get to sort of mid-career. Most of them, I'm starting to talk to people more in the mid-career, and they might be successful, but something's missing, and they don't know what it is. Often they think, oh, I must not be managing my time. All the typical soundtracks, or I must not be focused enough. I don't know how to say no, and all these other things. But underlying, there's this rub, that's going on at a subconscious level, and they don't know what it is. And what I think I've come to the conclusion is you go through different seasons in life, but you can be very successful, and you go through an inflection point where you realize that's not really what I think I wanted, right? And they'll do a career change, or they'll go off on a walkabout for a year, see the world, or whatever, but they're not connecting. And oftentimes they can be very skilled. This is my little blurb. They could be very skilled. They've developed really great skills. They could be a great salesperson, great technologist, whatever it may be. And they get great compensation for that, but it's not connecting with who they are. So a couple things principles that come up for me in my coaching is, and in my own life, is that getting clear on what your gifts are is really important. And I'm using the word gifts very intentionally, because these are things that aren't developed. These are natural abilities. You said you were selling early. You were selling ideas, you were selling whatever you were selling. That doesn't come naturally to people necessarily unless they're gifted with it. And so often you get people who are doing things that are against their gifts. And this can show up with them feeling exhausted. They're pushing so hard, they develop health issues, divorce, whatever. There are a lot of consequences, but underneath, they're just not connecting with who they really are and who they're made to be. Then those gifts can be directed in any venue. You can sell anything. You could sell rocket fuel to Elon Musk. You could sell widgets to Amazon. It doesn't matter. Ideas, coaching programs for real estate. It doesn't matter, right? And you'll go about things in a very different way based upon your gifting. If you fight that, it will stymie you. And so those some of the passions I have, and let me connect with sort of a different, I mean, people know me on this channel from Titans of Transition because I'm trying to really hone in on this issue that people are really trying so hard to be successful or fulfilled in life, and they're not dealing with things at a deep enough level. A side thing that I have going on is called Leadership Inklings, and I have a little story around that. And because my gig or my thing is leadership, I spent 35 years in technology leadership plus. The Inklings part comes from going back to Oxford and C.S. Lewis and who wrote Lord of the Rings? Now I've gone blank.
Oh my!
Tolkien.
You're out of my
Tolkien, and several other really well-known writers would meet in a pub called the Eagle and Child in Oxford, and they called themselves the Inklings Group because what they would do is they would bring their work and their ideas around, a pint, and they would have discussions, and they had a trusted group of people that they would get together and share their ideas and their passions and their work, and they would get thoughtful and helpful and supportive feedback. And so that fits into why I love coaching so much, why I love communities so much, technology communities I've built and that sort of thing. So when you and I talked before we got on the call, we discussed just the common threads between us.
I'm like, we're in the same world, man. We're building the same thing. Like,
yeah, completely different venue, but the same, very similar ideas, which is really interesting.
Well, so it's interesting, going back to you talking about the burnout and the frustration that people have as they grow and they're working in business. And what I've found in my teachings and watching and trainings is that one is that we naturally as human beings have a massive herd instinct. We herd together with other groups of people. We herd together with our surroundings. There's a reason that keeping up with the Joneses is a thing, is because we're herding with our neighbors and our surroundings. And we're going, oh my gosh, they got a new car down the street. I should be getting a new car also. We're always doing these things, trying to fit in. And when it comes to goal setting, business building, planning, a lot of times what we do is we go, well, I don't know what should I be focusing on? Well, John just put his goal 50% higher than what he did last year. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should put my number up there because that's what so-and-so's doing. And we see this like in schooling where a lot of people go and they go get their doctorate. Well, why did you get your doctorate? Well, because that's what my parents wanted me to do.
There you go. Yeah.
Was it what you wanted to do? And so I do a lot of work when coaching people is to say, okay, well, what do you want to do? Which a lot of people are very out of touch with who they are.
Very clueless with that. I
They
agree.
really out of touch with who they are. And then the other part is to see if you can, I have a belief that people will only be as good as they need to be. So when they're sitting there and beating themselves up over not hitting numbers, not doing certain things, not selling a certain amount of stuff, I will always ask is, in your life, do you need to be better or do you want to be better? And a lot of the wanting comes to fitting in, but really there's no need and they don't really know where they're going. So that's what I always try to figure out is let's figure out who you are as a core, really where you want to go and understand it to a point that you're like, you know what, I'm not satisfied here. I got a place I want to go to. And that is where the drive really starts to kick in. But we think just raising the income goal every year is all of a sudden going to create this drive that's going to make us be better. And I'm like, Joe, you've probably seen somebody do this where they set an income goal that's higher.
Right.
They get about halfway through the year. They're doing well. And they all of a sudden go, you know what? It's not really that important that I hit that number. It'd be fun. But I'm really good. Like, I'm good. And it's just like, because you hit your enough. Like, you're as good as you need to be. And so I think that's always an interesting thing. But yeah, a lot of fatigue, a lot of burnout, a lot of that is usually people chasing goals that are not theirs or they have no idea why they're doing it.
That is really, really prominent in a lot of the conversations I have. And they think they have clarity. They do have clarity, but it's someone else's echo from someone else's input. Those conditioning that they've had. What do I need to be successful? Well, my dad was an attorney. I'm going to be an attorney. Or, my dad wanted me to be successful, or mom. And so I can either be a dentist or a doctor or an attorney or something like that, because that's what I should be doing. So therefore they adopt, they own, they wrap everything around that. And this gets back to, I think it reinforces a point I made earlier about gifting as well. So you could have alignment for some of those things, but you could also, I've talked to a number of people who were in those kinds of careers, attorney. I've talked to at least one person who was an attorney gone, I was okay at it, but I didn't really like it, And so, and it comes real late. And so that's the power of getting a coach, is that a coach can help you. And a lot of people get confused. I think you probably get the same thing too, about the difference between a mentor and a coach, especially when you have a niched coaching practice that is in a certain industry, and you have knowledge. They think you're really a mentor, and you're going to explain to them what specific moves they should be making right away, so they don't do that hard work inside, in a way. But a coach is more like what we think of as an athletic coach, right? So what are your goals? What do you want to do? Now I'm going to kick your butt, and I'm going to hold you accountable to get there, and we're going to be partners to get through this. But the first work is that clarity work, to your point.
I'm really happy you brought up this whole coach mentor, because the other word that usually comes up that I like to throw into is an accountability partner. Like, these are all different levels of like somebody that shows up in your world.
A friend who's just going to ask you to do this.
And the word coach has been broken over the years. And I found this in the real estate industry specifically, which is a big part of what I work in, is the real estate industry. We work with lenders. With our new business that we have, we work with a lot of just entrepreneurs. We get all kinds of people coming in. And what's really interesting is that a lot of people will say, I have a coach. And the more questions I ask, going, tell me all about this coach that you have. I'm like, oh, no. You have an accountability partner is what you have. Like, and if you're paying for it, you have the most expensive accountability partner you could ever ask for, because most of them are free. Like, you should never pay for an accountability partner. And then there is the mentor, which is somebody who has these deep smarts, these deep elements that they can take with them from all their experiences and sit down with you and say, let's build something, and I'm going to watch what you're doing, and I'm going to give you tips and tools and tricks. There's a little bit of that in coaching. There's a little bit of accountability in coaching. But I always look at coaching, and you said, like, from the athletic standpoint, Michael Phelps' coach is a perfect example. Michael Phelps' coach stands on the side of the pool. He meets Michael there at an exact time that they're going to be coaching. If Michael is late, he leaves. He has no interest in standing around and waiting for him. Michael is required to do workouts outside of that coaching thing. And so that's the accountability partners that come in, that they're like, hey, we're going to make sure we get our workout in today, that type of stuff. But when the coach is there, he says, swim laps. And the coach stands on the side of the pool and watches them swim, and then they come back and they debrief. How do you feel? What's working right now? What's not working? I notice your lap times are off a little bit. And then the coach can say, I want you just to change the way your hands are entering the water. Just change your fingertips a little bit. And by the way, did you notice that you got a little bit more splash in your kick right now? We can see it from the side. I want you to adjust this, swim some laps, come back. And then they debrief again. How'd that feel? And Michael can say, my shoulder's cramping. And he can be like, well, this is probably why. And I want you to change these little adjustments and go back out and swim again. And these little adjustments, this person that can see you from the outside and make these fine-tuning little adjustments, that's what I look at as like what a true coach is. And it's a broken word in business industry, because most people don't have a coach. They either have a mentor or they have an accountability partner.
Right. And I want to just drill into this a little bit more, because I think it's important, really important for anybody tuning in. I'm certified through the John Maxwell team. And when I was certified, Christian Simpson was the coach, mentor, who was delivering the teachings to us, experiential teachings in a large group setting. And he used an exercise that I thought was really, really thought-provoking around this topic. Juggling. So we broke up into small groups of maybe 6, 7 people. And there was a couple thousand people in the room. And he asked us to go through, it's kind of like a coaching triad exercise. So essentially, everyone got a crack at trying to juggle. 95%, 99% of the people in the room didn't know how to juggle.
Interesting.
So they had no experiential knowledge of what moves, putting your hand on the water kind of thing, what should be done. And so someone was assigned to be the coach and someone's assigned to be the juggler. And then the typical third kind of person of the triad exercise would be observing what was going on between the coach and the coachee. The interesting thing was it forced the person being trained to be the coach to be extremely observant, deep observational skills. They may not have any domain knowledge at all, but after a while, these people learned to do a semblance of juggling, right?
Funny. Interesting.
And I think that's good because it kind of explains, I think, to people who are looking for a coach to get a little bit confused when they select a coach. Should they be getting someone specifically in my industry? I think it's an added value, but there's a caution there on the coach because it's too easy for the coach to rely on their domain knowledge and miss something. But the other part of it is you can get extremely powerful insights from a coach who knows nothing about the specifics of your situation.
I'm so happy you bring this up because again, in our industry, it's almost comical how many people come in and they go, I want to hire a coach, but I need to know their background in real estate. And what happens is a coach that has a really good background in real estate, what a lot of times they do is they come in and they say, hey, Joe, let me tell you how I ran my successful business.
Right.
And I'm going to teach you how I did that, and then you can mirror me in what I did. And the crazy part about it, and this is why I love business, is that's not how it works. What your talents are is not what this person's talents are.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of not having a connection to the actual industry a lot of times. Now, I do have a background in real estate, but it is one of those things where you get to step off to the side and go, let's analyze this person that we're teaching how to juggle right now that we don't really have a background in juggling. And we can see it from a different perspective. We can see talents and little pieces where you can go, did you know that you're doing this? Did you see that you're doing this? And you help them become the juggler rather than them become you. And that's what it always drives. I used to have people try out to be coaches and they would tell me all about their what they could give and the gifts of real estate and what they've accomplished. And I'm like, you need to go find a stage and teach if you want to do that. You need to go be on a panel if you want to do that, but you're not necessarily a coach. And I watch coaching programs make this mistake all the time when hiring coaches. They take somebody who's done really good in the business and they go, oh, you must be able to coach somebody because you've done it before yourself. Most of the time, those are horrible coaches. They will actually damage somebody's business and their dreams because you fall in, Joe, to this trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to make somebody else's goals your goals. Like, it's a broken thing.
And I think it reinforces sort of the quick fix kind of mentality that coachees might come to you with, like, just tell me what I need to do to be successful. Last night I was watching with my wife, with Barb, a show with Chris Helmsworth. I think that's the right pronunciation. Thor, where he was being pushed by a neuroscientist, a medical doctor, but she was a neuroscientist, to exercise his brain by learning a very unfamiliar skill, and she suggested music. And so I don't know if you've seen these episodes or not, but I think the series is unlimited, I think. So I encourage people to check it out. But the fascinating thing with this was he knew how to play a little bit of guitar, but he got pushed to select drums. And he was going to, the end goal to force him into accountability was after like 2 months, he's friends with Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
So in 2 months, he was going to go on stage at a concert with Ed Sheeran, and perform drums, be the drummer on a song that was a big hit for Ed. And he was just going to come up and do that. So he was friends with someone locally to him. It was in a band, a drummer who was going to coach him on drums. And it was just fascinating. And I think it really talks about kind of what it's like to be a coach and what it's like to be pushed into an area that you really don't have any natural gifting in. And in all fairness to Chris, he doesn't have much rhythm. I play guitar, so I have a sense. He has very little rhythm.
By the way, that's a key aspect of being a drummer is having some rhythm. Like it's a really important piece.
I lost your audio.
Oh. I still got my audio on my end.
Let's hang on just a second. I'm going to put a marker in here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is me or you.
I still got audio showing up on my bars.
Output. I will edit this out. Can you still hear me? Okay. Let me just verify.
I got my audio showing up.
I don't know why. Can you talk now?
Yeah, I have audio showing up through Riverside.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. I don't know what happened, but
weird.
Anyway, so let's go back. So I think this is a great lesson with Chris Helmsworth because his drum coach, after the first lesson, said, "We're in big trouble." You know, he's kind of talking kind of to the camera. He goes, "Chris has no sense of rhythm at all."
Oh, wow.
So to the end, I have to close the story out. He does go on stage and he does a pretty good job, but he had to work his butt off. And you could tell every step of the way, he was completely out of his comfort zone and probably out of his natural gifting, but he was competent for that song. Could he do anything else but that song? No, I don't think so. So it's kind of interesting because a person who asks you, what should I do? And you're expecting a mentor, the moves and the way you go about things can be completely different. You could still be a successful salesperson or a technologist, but if you don't do it in the way you're wired, you're screwing yourself.
Well, it's also, and let's go back to fatigue. Like if it's not a natural thing that you are naturally good at, the mental fatigue that comes with that, trying to be that, is not a long-term plan. You can't do that forever. That's something. So this goes back into, we did a whole episode on the whole theory of just do it. And I always laugh with people when they'll set goals, they'll build out a business plan, and you can tell it's not a passion, it's not driving them, but they know it's like, I just got to do it if I'm going to be successful. I just got to do it. And you hear them say that, I'm just going to do it. Like and you watch them like go for a week and they do it and they put the hammer down and they're making all this drive. And then all of a sudden they fall off and they're like, darn it, I'm not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I know I'm supposed to be doing these things. I have to get back on track.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just going to get back in the just do it mentality again. And it's like, you know what? You have systems that aren't built around your natural gifts, your natural talents, and your natural passions. Like, we need to change the plan, because this is my friend, he didn't coin this, but he brought it in my life. This is my business partner, Matt Benelli again. He said, this whole thing of work-life balance is really a bummer, because you're always giving from one side to the other. It's always a transition.
Zero-sum game, right? Yep.
And so he said, what we really need to focus on is a harmonization of life and business. And that's where I have found where people really, all of a sudden their businesses blow up, is in a positive way, is when all of a sudden work isn't work. Work is just this life and this journey that they love and they have passion about. And it happens to put them around the right people. And it happens to put them in the right situations where sales can happen and business can happen. And at the end of the day, they're doing the things they love.
Yes.
And like for real estate, we've been told, well, you're supposed to go do open houses and you're supposed to go and run these ads and you're supposed to go and have all these things. And I find all of a sudden you find this person over here who's killing it in real estate. And I'm like, well, where do you get your business from? Well, I go play volleyball every night and I'm on these teams and I'm around all these people, and the group of the tournament is typically this big, but we meet every week. And I'm like, how much business comes out of there? All of it? Like
There you
that's
go.
pretty much where I drive my business from. And I'm
Right.
like, that's fun. Like that you can keep doing for a long time. That's not work. And I think that's the beauty of the coaching aspect
Right.
is to sit here and go, I got to learn everything about you because we're going to see if we can build this in a way that harmonizes it with the passions and the talents of who you are.
Yeah, well, that's really a powerful point. I think also that part of what shows up in that example is how powerful authenticity is. And so if you have segmented yourself, my personal life and what I'm passionate about in terms of, pursuits I want to do creatively and, my work life, if those things are compartmentalized, then when you show up to work, as an example, are you really showing up? Is the authentic you showing up? And boy, I tell you, nothing will kill in the sales process or in just relationships, which really is the sales process too.
Yeah.
More than anything else is this lack of authenticity. And so, and people can read when you're not comfortable at a low level with what you're saying and who you are. So,
well, if you think about it, the ability to read whether somebody's being authentic or not is like caveman DNA.
Yeah,
like we're going
absolutely.
way back and
Super
stuff that's built into us.
Muscles and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's survival is what it
Yeah.
is. You got to be able to read the surrounding very quick and say, am I in a dangerous situation? Can I trust this person in front of me? Are they doing what they said they're going to do? And the minute we see that as humans, we get this little thing inside of us where we go in our gut, I don't have a good feeling about this. Something feels off. And we do this all day long about everything. You want to cook a meal tonight. You open up the chicken, your brain real quick goes, how's that chicken smell? And you don't even have to smell the chicken. You catch a little whiff and your brain goes, wow, something's off.
It's a
wrong
lower
with that.
brain thing.
Yep. Which then goes us and causes us to investigate a little bit.
Yep.
We see salespeople all day. I mean, did you watch the Alex Hormozy thing that went on this last weekend?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw part of it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could tune in for 3 days. I did the math on it. We sat there and did the math. Now, by the way, I think Alex Hormozy is actually fairly authentic. He shows up in a very good way.
Yeah. No scripts and all.
Yeah. There's stuff about him that makes me step back and go, what is his real motive here? He's all about making money. Yeah. We did the math. I'm pretty sure he made $100 million this last weekend, just in the sales alone that happened while he was doing. And it was funny. I was talking with my friend about this, and he was going like, this is amazing. I'm like, dude, this is a telethon out of the 80s. I'm like, this is not new. Like, this is nothing spectacular. He's literally doing a 3-day telethon. He's the one raising money for himself instead of raising money for a charity. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that the 45,000 people I saw watching that thing. And most people feel good about Alex Hormozy and what he's bringing to the table and what he represents. And that authentic side has to be there because to do that long term, which he's been doing it for a while now, this type of engaging with people, if you're not authentic, people will move the other direction so fast. It weeds businesses out. It weeds the phonies out. Right. And this is where a lot of people in business wonder why they're not being successful. And you got to ask yourself, am I being authentic to who I am up front? Because if you are, you're probably going to be successful with it. If you're not, people can see it from a mile away. They know you're faking it.
Yeah. And I think, we connect on the value side of the equation too. So, the old, I think this might be Maxwell saying, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So you're in this business to help people and you demonstrate that and there's no daylight between, who you are and what you're giving people in your coaching. So, they trust you. And you demonstrate that over time by what you deliver and how you work with people. And that's authentically who you are. What I was going to say is so many people, and this is one of those external tapes that have been played decade after decade. And there's truth to this whole reciprocity type of thing, right? But so many people are advised to get into a situation where they get people hooked by making them beholden upon them. I gave you something. And you can smell that.
Oh, yeah.
So in terms of authenticity, that's where I was going, is you people are so distrustful for anything that smells like a reciprocity-based hook to try to get them sold on some program you're selling, and then you disappear, and you know what I mean? So
where I fell into coaching, and I literally like fell in love with it from the minute I started doing it. And then all of a sudden I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, I can actually make a living out of this.
Sure.
Like I can make this work. There was something about getting into people's worlds, being able, I usually describe it as back to cars because I love cars, but it was like being able to open the hood up, rip all the wires out of it, figure out what's going on, what are all the moving pieces, and then be like, can we rewire this thing so that it actually runs more efficient, runs faster, like all aspects of it. Let's see if we can do it. And I just found this passion of it a long time ago. And this is where my dad's like, you're a smart kid, you'll figure it out. And he actually, the last thing he said was, you've been doing this your whole life, you don't even know it.
There you go.
Yeah. And that was one of the moments that I was like, oh, this is a natural, innate ability that I have that I didn't even see in myself, but others saw. And it just snowballed from there where, you know, the average coaching client I've worked with, I think I'm at 9 years right now that they've stayed coaching with me. I've coached people for, I've coached 2 people I've coached for 20 years.
Wow.
Every week or every 2 weeks for 20 years. Like, that's the other side of coaching, Joe, that I think I'm curious to see if you enjoyed as much as I do, is like getting to know these people, from when they were single to when they started dating, to when they got married, to having kids, to all of a sudden having grandkids, to it's like, whoa, like what? Like, this is an amazing journey you get to go on as a coach. And I think a lot of coaches out there don't want to dive in that deep. They want to kind of stay like, oh, I'm just your business coach. Like, show up. What did you do? How's it working? Again, a lot of accountability partner. I think a true coach has got to jump into your world. They got to know all your aspects, everything you got going on. It's almost like crossing to therapy sometimes, because all of a sudden you have a deep stuff that's going on that they feel trust and they can share with you. And as long as you understand what your role is there, to be like, I'm not here to give advice about that, but I'm here to I can listen to you. Well, if you want to share anything you want.
Yeah, I've formed some pretty long-term relationship with people. I don't have any people that I'm currently coaching that I coached 20 years ago, but they might still be friends. And then maybe they call me from time to time, ask me a question or for some advice, but I might not be in sort of a coaching engagement with them. The interesting thing there is I find that desire for my coachee to be healthy and to succeed and to get where they really want to be lives on well beyond the engagement ends. The other thing I would say in later years, I'm especially sensitive to this now. I don't know. I'm just interested in what you think about this. I have to guard myself from trying to help people who don't want help.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I probably underpriced my services, to be honest, and kick myself to a certain degree. But now I've become very intolerant for people who don't want to show up. It's back to that example you had about Michael Phelps' coach. If I get biffed on a couple engagements, I'm done. On a couple sessions, I'm like, you don't want my help. You know, they paid up front for a certain number of months. And I'll say, I'm glad to re-engage you when you're ready.
It's interesting. So I have always approached my coaching since I started. We did a little bit different up front for the first couple of years, but I changed to a model very quickly that everything is on a month-to-month relationship. I don't do long-term contracts at all. I don't believe in them. I've always said, you know what, long-term I'm not picking on you, Joe, so don't worry about this.
Mine's mine.
But with my coaches, I had a lot of them saying we should be doing 6-month contracts. We should be doing year-long contracts. And my answer always is that gives you the ability of feeling a safety net that you can not show up a couple times and you still have a client.
You have to watch that.
Where if you're doing month to month, you need to show up every single time, because at any moment in time, they can be like, we're cool. This has been a great ride. Thanks so much. I'm going to go do something else.
No, let me just modify that a second. So what my engagement practice is 3 months minimum upfront. Yeah. Because That is my qualifier. If a person's not willing to give me 3 months up front, they don't want to do this. And I don't want to waste my time with them. Then a month after that.
We're very much along the same lines with that, because I always tell people I don't have a minimum up front. But if you're not willing to take 6 months of your time and to be with me, let's not even start this at all. Right. Like, let's not even get into it. So that's always kind of my thing that I will say to people up front. And then from there, when you said you can't coach anybody who doesn't want to be coached, I do an hour up front. And a lot of people go like, well, gosh, what are you trying to do in that hour up front? And my complimentary hour before we've ever signed a contract and started coaching is, I always tell people, I'm trying to figure out if they're coachable. That's what I'm trying to do. Right. Because if they're not coachable, I'm not going to jump into this game with them. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll say, well, how do you know in an hour if somebody's not coachable? I count the amount of buts. When I give an idea or a thought of like, well, have you ever tried this over here? And what if you did this? Yeah, but, this and that. And, oh, yeah, but, kind of along, or anything that's a variation of but, sure. I just make a little note. And the more reasons they have about why things won't work or why things aren't going to work, there's a place in there. It's like, you know what? I can see the writing on the wall. Yeah. Like, this isn't going to be a fun relationship. I want people that are sitting there going, yeah, I'm willing to try it and let's talk about it. And that's like Michael Phelps swimming, and you're going, make this little adjustment. Now, if he looked at his coach and went, yeah, I don't think that's going to work, the coach would be like, then what am I doing here? Like, what are we talking about? Yeah. But if they're willing to say, I'll go try it and swim some laps and come back and let's talk about it, that's an amazing coaching relationship. You will learn so much out of all those little pieces. And then that's what you can do to refine it for that person that you're coaching. And that's been my passion around this for all these years, is just a little fine tuning, always fine tuning.
I like that. I think you are essentially qualifying them and kind of use the sales. I did sell enterprise software for about 3 years. So I got a little bit of sales training. So, I mean, you're essentially getting them to, are you going to be able to say yes to what I'm pitching to you as a minimum? It doesn't have to be a contract yet, but I need to at least hear that first yes, right?
Yes.
And if you're not hearing, all you're hearing is no or yes, but, or no, but, I hear you, but a but is a no. And so.
Well, the worst is when you have somebody that comes to you and they're like, I'm supposed to sign up for coaching. And I'm like, great. So tell me all. Yeah. And they're like, well, my manager says I should hire a coach.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've sold bundles. I've bundles where, I'm getting away from that for sure. I still have a few in there.
Those are weird situations.
They are
weird. Even worse is when the person who's doing the coaching isn't paying for the coaching.
Yeah.
That I've watched too, where companies have said, we're gonna gift coaching to these people for a while. I'm always like, I get it. It's good for my business. I can coach some people, I guess. It's a nightmare for long-term referrals, testimonials. Like it's a nightmare. It's just not worth it in the long run.
Well, I think in those situations, you can still have that introductory conversation, but coaching in a business context where you're working with a manager and a manager is part of what goals they want the person, you really need to, that one's tricky. A friend of mine and I launched an internal coaching program at one of the companies I worked at, and she was sort of the lead person in that situation. Since I had coaching credentials, I helped to launch that. And setting up that manager coach arrangement, very tricky. But I think you can go back to it the same way you're qualifying people individually and say back to the company or the manager, I'm not going to take your money.
Well, you talked about the owner of the manager's goals. I actually had this situation happen years ago where an owner of a company had basically said, hey, I've got like 5 people and, I want to get them all coached. And he also made the comment of, and if this works out, I'm going to blow your coaching program up. I'm going to bring so many people into you. And I'm like, all right, okay, I'll get that. But let's see if we can start with these people here and let's see where it goes. I coached him for about 3 months, and I'll never forget, I was walking into my kids' event. We were going in to watch them perform on stage at this little school event, and my phone rings and it's his name. And I was like, I'm not picking that up right now. So I hung up on it, and all of a sudden it rings again. And I was like, all right, pick it up. I said, hey, how's it going? And his first words out of his mouth were, if I'm going to bring you this much business, you answer my calls when I call.
Oh boy.
And it was funny. My child was sitting in the seat next to me. Again, we're getting ready to go in. I said, officially, we can cancel all of our contracts as we have right now. I said, I'll reach out to your people individually and see if they want to continue to be coaching, but you are no longer responsible for anything moving forward. He goes, oh, I was just joking with you. I was just joking with you. And I said, nope, like we're over.
We're done.
And that's that crazy thing that can happen when you have a manager or an owner that takes that much. They overstep that boundary of trying to be in that type of relationship. And it's a power move. It's not healthy. It's not going to help any of these people get to where they want to go to. And that's why I like true, authentic working with people individually in coaching.
I just have to say a little sideline here to anyone who's listening to this. We're getting pretty geeky about the ins and outs of coaching. And I hope you can appreciate that if you're not in the coaching business, or if you're a coach, someone who might be seeking a coach. We don't mean to be harsh, but this is some of the realities is in order to really have a valuable coaching arrangement, there are certain things that have to be in place, and trust has to be there, confidentiality has to be there, willingness to work with a coach, accountability, all those things. So I just want a little sideline, because I kind of was like, ooh, we're getting
getting geeky
pain
here.
Points here.
Well, so going back, and Joe, you can cut this off whenever you want. Just hit the stop record. But when we first started talking, and I think talking about titans of transition and transitioning in life, and I had brought up something to you early on when we were kind of talking, which was about when you're going through massive transition, when you are in a journey, and all of a sudden that journey changes, like what I was on, to starting a brand new company, and I was mentioning to you how much identity I had with what I was doing before. And I said, I really went through about a 6-month flat out identity crisis here, going back here a while. And I wanted to chat with you about that real quick, because obviously you help a lot of people through transition. And it's funny when you're the coach that needs the coach, like needs to have somebody to kind of walk them through, oh, here's where you're at and here's what you're experiencing. And it's okay. Like you're going to be okay. How often do you see that with people when they're making massive transitions, big changes, that they almost have lost sight of who they are as a core and trying to refine and reevaluate? Because at the end of it, I figured out I'm exactly who I thought I was. I just gave a little too much emphasis to something that I've been holding on to for a long time. Do you ever see that?
Yeah, I see it a lot. I mean, well, first of all, first thought comes to mind is that there are transitions that you choose, and then there's transitions that are thrust upon you. And we might be talking a little bit more about the latter, maybe. But in any case, your sense of well-being and complete self-worth is all supported by at least a couple different things. One of them, very crucial, is your sense of safety, right? So if you've had a transition thrust upon you, you've suffered from a layoff, or you've been fired, or, for whatever reason, the thing that you have come to trust in, your community you're with, the people you're working with, your job, and your sense of self-worth is all tied up into that. And your identity is tied up. When you have a disruption like that, all that goes back to zero. And then you have to have an internal dialogue with yourself where you're going, what was that?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people, it's a sense of loss, and they go through the stages of grief and all that kind of stuff, and they get angry and bitter, and there's a lot of hard work to be done there. And sometimes people are justified in feeling as though, they did nothing. But at the end of the day, your identity immediately shifts in those kind of disruptive transitions to, I'm the guy who doesn't have a job. Or I am the guy who now doesn't have the job I used to have, the identity that I associate with myself. I'm the VP, or I'm the guy, or the woman, or the person in charge. All that gets kind of blown up. So I'll just say that.
There's a definite place of self-worth, like when you have a group of people, let's say 28 coaches, that, your phone rings every single day. And as much as you can complain about it as like, oh my gosh, the phone won't stop ringing, the emails won't stop coming in, the people that don't, like, they always just trying to get my attention. And then all of a sudden you shut down a company. And it really was our choice to shut it down. I do have to say that. My wife and I found ourselves sitting on the kitchen floor in tears going, what we have built for 20 years, we're literally put into a position that we can take a ridiculous offer that was insulting, or we can turn the lights off. And that was this crazy place of like, how did we get here? Like, what did we do something wrong? Should we have done something different along these lines? Should we have shut this down maybe a long time ago? Back in 2019, we saw a little moment that we're like, nope. And then it was like, nope, keep your head down, keep working, keep focusing, keep doing what you know how to do. And what's interesting is going through that transition, which was all of a sudden you shut it off. And maybe once every 2 weeks, one of those people would reach out, just be, hey, how you doing? How are you doing? What do you got going on? But to have that flow of people coming to you all the time to be turned off so fast, made me literally sit in my office just going, where do I go? What do I like? What's my purpose now?
Every contact point, every call, whether you have time for it or not, are affirmations, and they're like highlighting your identity of the person in demand, the person who's got the answers, the person who you're the business owner, all that stuff. Very powerful. And so when that's turned off, it's like the lights go out. The utility company turned everything out. You don't realize how dependent you were on it until it's gone. And so then comes the time. And actually, I would posit for everyone listening, this is one of the best times for you to reach out and get a coach, even though it might be painful to go through the process. If you can do it, this is one of the best times to do it. Because the other thing I would say, and this is a Thomas Leonard framework, one of his framework questions, is to ask people going in those situations, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to move away from something? Are you looking to move towards? And what are you moving away from and why? And what are you moving towards? That kind of framing, just simple questions like that really help a lot. And, it's just kind of like being a coach is kind of like a guide, right? So, in a self-discovery process. So,
it was interesting.
Disruptive changes. Sorry, I just want to clarify something. We talked about the disruptive changes and mostly here, but there's also the changes that are thrust upon us. There's also the changes that we feel we need to make, but we're not sure why. And I guess I'm talking a little bit more about the second one when I'm using this framework.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And as you said, during these times, it's kind of the time that you probably need to hire a coach the most. And because, it's interesting is I luckily have a lot of incredible coaches in my world. I have a lot of trusted people that know me really, really, really well that were kind of watching over me. I have a handful of them that would check in and ask me questions, get me thinking about certain things, kind of turn me in a direction, which was incredibly helpful. I'm grateful for my friends and my connections that I've made over all these years. And it was interesting because I watched myself going, okay, who am I now? I need to make money. Both my wife and I run the business together. So instantly both of us were pretty much without an income.
Yeah.
Luckily all my coaching clients came with me. So I'm like, okay, at least I have that. We can keep that going. But I mean, I was in a place of going, okay, here I am, 46 years old.
Right.
What if I started a welding company? I like welding. I could do welding. I know how to weld. Right. I could go down that path. What if I went and got my real estate license and went back into selling real estate? I could do that. I know how to do that. We started talking about all kinds of crazy companies. And this goes back to like what you said early on, which was understanding what your passions are, understanding what you're really good at. This is where we just kind of circled back around to like, okay, let's not throw away what we've become really good at for 20 years and just turn that world off because we we love it. It's naturally where we come from.
And what
It's
would cause you to think about throwing it away would be, I want to move away from the pain right now.
100%.
And I want to get to something else where I no longer have that pain, right?
It was the fastest, me going through that thing of going, I just want to be done with this altogether, was the fastest way of me going, if I cut all these people out of my life, if I cut all this type of business out of my life, I get to start fresh, brand new, at 46 years old, trying to make a whole new database, a whole new clientele, build this whole thing. But it really was self-preservation. It was really, because I'll tell you, when you're in transition like that, you go through some dark places. You go through some moments.
I'll tell you one of my transition stories where I was fired, and kind of at kind of a real high point in my career. And, of course, I think it was unfair, but
of course
it doesn't matter. So I was like, and it was a surprise. And this was in California. And I can remember telling Barb, I said, and she was reeling because that was her security too on the income. I said, I have to get away for a few days and do some work. Right. I had no clue. And I had been coaching a little bit on my own on the side. Right. I rented a place, and kind of like a VRBO place. And I went away for a long weekend, and I had journals, and I brought up my journals, and I went back 25 years reading through I said, I got to learn more about myself because I must have slipped up and I missed it. Right. And so I'm digging deep, and I saw these patterns in my life where things would go up. Then I get myself in a bad spot. I'd have a crisis. Things are, sort of, I felt like I was in the Israelites going through the desert or something. But anyway, it was a deep period of self-discovery. Now, I didn't solve all those problems, but only underscoring that transition stories. But when I came out of it, I had a very different perspective about what I needed to own. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I'm going to draw a parallel. I love movies, so I'll draw a parallel. It was a lot like Yoda was talking to me, telling me to go in the cave and to face the thing I wanted to run away from.
Yep.
Darth. In this case, me. And what was the work that I needed to do myself. And I got a coach after that. I wasn't currently under a coach at that time. Because I needed the help, because there was some deep work that needed to be done. And so I say all that to say, we all go through transitions that are hard. They can be thrust upon us. We can do it ourselves. We can have our own missteps, chasing the shiny object or whatever. But having a partner is a powerful thing. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, and you brought up this journaling and being able to go walk away and have that time to be able to go do that. And what I think is really interesting, and this is why I think also having a coach is really powerful, is that we have a saying in our household that my daughter called me out on, that I realized I maybe have scarred her over the years instead of thinking I was actually helping her, which the saying is you're not special. And I always add this in with, what you are going through is what so many people go through, but nobody talks about. We all keep these things inside. We don't bring them out and put them out in the open because these are our problems. Why do I want to burden people with my stuff that I've got going on? So to be able to sit down and journal like this and see these trends and to see these times that you were on the uptick and then all of a sudden something changed and then you're on the downward slide, to be able to analyze that and look at that, at least on your own, is super powerful. But then able to sit down and say with a coach and say, look at all of this. Here's my trends that I've had in the background, patterns that I've had, and here's where I'm currently at right now. And let's break the pattern. Let's figure out how not to do this again. Now, I realized I did damage because my daughter came to me and she goes, you told us we were not special for years. And I was like, wait a second. Wait, there's another piece.
You didn't hear the other part. I love it. So this might be a good place to sort of segue a little bit. And we've been going for a while. And I always have this one question, and it's a little bit, classical question, advice you give to your younger self. But really, for those listening in, if we were to try to summarize, and I'm asking you first when I say we, what's this we stuff, Joe? Summarize some of the biggest helpful lessons we have learned over the years in our own journeys, our own transition journeys, and we can underscore that with how we've seen this show up with our coachees as well. So, going to you, Garrett.
So if I heard the question correct, this is kind of looking back at like the things that I have learned about myself along my journey of my life. And yeah, I would say, for the most part, I've always said is one, don't take yourself too seriously. This is a world that we have a lot of fears placed upon us about, having to be a certain way, having to show up a certain way, having to hit certain levels of what we call success. And gosh, if you're not doing this, you're not a success. And it just takes all the damn fun out of the entire journey that we're on. Like it just strips all of the excitement out of it, trying to be what everybody else wants us to be. It's probably the reason I got kicked out of a couple schools. You didn't know that.
I remember. I've forgotten that.
But I would say that's something I've taken with me my entire life, is try not to take things too seriously. Try to enjoy this ride that we're on.
Lighten up.
Success will come. It will come, and in a lot of it, I've taken my success of saying, yes, there's income success, but I would say the real success that I've looked at in life is that who's standing around you at the end. Who are the people that are willing to stay with you? The long-term relationships. I'm grateful for my relationship with Keith. I'm grateful for my relationship with Chad. I'm grateful for we didn't even mention Bryce.
Oh, I forgot Bryce. Bryce, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Bryce.
You're in there.
But it's an interesting thing is that I'm a collector of people. And as I go through life, like that's my element of success, because you can only keep long-term relationships if you do show up authentic, if you do show up as yourself, because if you're not doing that, by the way, everything else is really difficult. You've got a great tribe and a great group of people that you're running with. You can accomplish a lot. You have a lot of options. You have a lot of things you can do. And so I'd say that would be a life lesson that I would really encourage people to focus on. And I would say my last thing, and this is because I'm a huge believer in self-talk, and I think a lot of us don't pay attention to our self-talk enough. We get told we're supposed to do gratitudes. We get told we're supposed to write affirmations. And what a lot of people don't realize is that your internal self-talk that chatters at you all day long, that says you are this, you are that, you are not as successful as maybe you wanted to be, you're not going to hit your goals this year, it actually speaks to you in perfectly written affirmations. So when I ask people, do you do affirmations? And they go, oh, I've tried those a couple times, but I don't do them really. I haven't done them for years. A lot of people don't realize that they're doing them all day long. They're constantly affirming the situation around them. They're constantly affirming the results that they're getting. They're constantly affirming the relationships that they have with their loved ones. And what a lot of us don't realize is that you can rewrite the script, that your subconscious brain does not understand the difference between made up and reality. Yeah. And by taking a situation that you're not currently seeing the results you want and putting a new picture in its place and visualizing on it and thinking about it, your brain says, I have to make the pictures match. And this is a gift that I try to give to a lot of people. My dad gave it to me as a very young kid. I've been writing affirmations ever since I was, probably 8 years old. And I was taught very, very early that the world is all made up around us. What do you want to create? What do you want to have around you? And I know a lot of people think the world happens to you, but I will say, if you can get control of that little voice inside, first off, ask it, where did you come up with this belief about me? Is it true? What is our proof that we have? And do we want to continue to hold on to it, or do we want to create a new reality? And it's amazing. Even if you find yourself fighting with a spouse or irritated with the spouse or a loved one, it's amazing to stop and say, what if I stopped focusing on the things that were annoying me and I started focusing on the things that I love about this person? The entire moment changes
completely.
And
yeah,
that's a great thing to bring with you. So I kind of went down a whole path there.
That's
Joe,
really, I got to take a couple minutes. That's really powerful because I think that it gets into being aware of what's being said inside your head. And then it gets into owning the narrative and in the moment. And also in terms of, as we plot our course forward and what we want to be remembered for. You touched on legacy without using the legacy word.
Yep.
And the fact that our loved ones and the people that we love, that we serve and our friends will live on there. And so plotting our course forward, and then I'm going to tie in the visualization. And I love using that. In fact, I use from all my strategic planning, I do forward to back planning. Most planning, whether it's strategy for individual growth or it's corporate strategy, all starts with, what could we possibly do based on where we are today, not where do I want to be, and chunk it back into today. But when I coach people about their best future, I say, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think in all your senses of walking that day in your best future, exactly what you'll be experiencing, who you are, and what you'll be doing, and what your life will look like, and take a ton of time doing that. Because you're right, and there's a lot of research that talks about this, that your brain cannot differentiate. So it will start rewiring. And
well, I'll add in even more to that real quick, is that what your number one, your brain subconscious role is to maintain sanity. That's it. It is trying to make sure that the inside picture matches the outside picture. It's always what it's trying to do. And so the interesting thing is when you're constantly affirming the world that's around you, you're constantly saying, okay, the pictures match, the pictures match. Even if it's not what you want, the pictures match, the pictures match, the pictures match. It might be I'm having a hard time finding a new job. I keep trying out for jobs and I keep getting turned down. Like this is just like, it just keeps finding that picture for you. When you put a new vision in and you really focus on, like you were saying, like really like taste it, feel it, like everything should be there. What do the waves sound like crashing on the beach? What's the sand feel like under your feet? Is it soft sand? Is it rocky sand? Is it like, because that'll make a difference of what beach you're on. Like, where are you in this vision? Oregon coast is what I keep thinking of. And that is not soft sand. That is tear your feet up if you're not careful sand, but that's where my vision goes to.
Yeah.
You start building all this in. And your brain says, I either need to get you to stop visioning this, or I got to find a way to make it start to happen. Yeah. And I think this is where a lot of people get lost in affirmations, is they think that they're manifesting something to fall out of thin air and to all of a sudden show up in their life. And really what it is it's your brain starts going, what are the subtle changes I can make right now that will start to make that picture come to life?
Right.
And all of a sudden you blink and it might be a year, 5 years, 10 years. And you're sitting here going, this is the picture I was creating. All of a sudden I got here and I can't believe I'm here. And I've seen it happen overnight. And I've seen it happen in a long period of time as you build something incredibly big that takes time to build.
Yep.
But
there's a difference between a goal, that's a slice at a point in time, and a direction. And what we're talking about is that true north direction you want to go towards. And if you keep affirming that continually, moment by moment, as you said, your brain's going to say, there's difference here. This is the delta in this one area here. See that delta? Let's close that gap. And it guides you. The other thing that I just thought of when we were talking about this is that when you engage someone in this kind of discussion, as they're trying to work out what they want to do, what their next moves are going to be, and you force them into this, and let's say that they had this external programming that they wanted to be a successful trial attorney or whatever it would be. Then you try to get them to visualize that, they're going to have a real hard time. They might be able to visualize it, but they're not going to like it.
Well,
And that's a great discovery.
One of the reasons it causes so much stress and so much energy, and the reason people stop doing it, is we are trained in our world to figure out the how. So we know what we want. We have this idea of this picture that we want. We want to have that house on the coast, waves crashing, families sitting around us, eating dinner, watching the sunset over the water. We can picture it. We can see what it's all about. But then because all of our best mentors, people around us, the first thing they will ask you is, great, how are you going to do it? And your brain goes, I don't know how I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden, if you can't lean back into it and go, I'm going to continue to visualize, continue to figure out the path, learn the ways that I'm going to get there along the way, and be able to say, I don't know. And I think so many people are afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to make that work. Right. But I'm going to figure it out.
There you go. Yeah.
And it crushes a lot of people because they feel like they have to be able to tell somebody, upfront, here's my plan.
Yeah, that's great. I wasn't thinking about that. I'm glad you brought us back to that. What I was trying to bring out, I don't know if you caught it or not, was a person thinks that true north is truly theirs.
Oh, God.
And as you get into really visualizing it in depth and they can see it, if they have the realization, go, oh, I don't want that. Not the how, but I don't like that. Now that I've really unpacked what that is, that's powerful too.
Well, and I have found a tool around that when you find people that are kind of like getting lost in that. It's always good to ask yourself, did I put that out there because it's somebody I want to be?
Right.
Or is it something I want to have?
Or have.
Or is it something I want to do? Or is it something I want to give? Because that, like when I think of the beach house, that is an actual to give to my wife. That is where that comes from. It is her happy place in life. And at some point in life, I have got to get her on that beach with the house that she can wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, and go walk on the beach. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's very much, though, a to give in my world. And I think we have to get very clear, because if you lose sight of these visions and these goals and these things that we have out here, and we find ourselves doing them for the wrong reason, or we're not able to articulate to somebody, is it a to do? Is it a to be? Is it a to have or to give? Because for some people, having the coastal house is a total to be. It's a status symbol. I got a beach house. I'm going to invite my friends out here. They're going to see that I've made it. Like, there's that side of it. You have to figure that out for yourself as you're setting these goals, because if you miss it, you all of a sudden can find yourself feeling very lost.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, buddy, I think we'll probably have to wrap this up. We could keep going.
This is great. I want to keep going. I got hours.
I have two leadership community sessions this afternoon I got to get ready for. But this has been great. I really enjoyed it. And your information we will put in the description for the podcast and in the YouTube description. If anyone wants to make contact with you, tell us a little bit about that. Just remind us of the company name, where you can best be found. Sometimes people have websites, but they have preferences for other ways of getting connected. So let us know what that is.
I'll tell you real quick. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Garrett Frey on Facebook. You can find me easily that way. My company's name's Life at 10 Tenths. You can also find me on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. You can go look up Life at 10 Tenths. We have an app. You can go grab the app if you want to, which will give us access into all of our podcast episodes and all that. And then again, if you just want to reach out to me, Garrett at lifeat10tenths.com. You can email me if you'd like. And again, you'll find my phone number all over everywhere. I'm a big phone talker. I like getting on the phone with people and chatting and figuring out what's going on. But that's the best place to come check us out and see what we got going on. And we've got, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and we have built out one of my roles with our world right now is bringing together incredible people into one place. I am finding the most amazing people in our industry, in entrepreneurship, and the goal is to bring them together in one spot, celebrate where we're at, what our journeys are at, and that's our community, which is the 11 Circle. And we have a lot of people that join that in through Life at 10 Tenths. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Garrett. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll talk again soon.
We will. Mr. Miller, thank you.
Don't call me. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Titans of Transition. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please check the show notes for additional information.